Hello, everybody. My name is Kyle, and this is The Conservative Take, and I wanted to do a live stream similar to what I did before a few days ago with essentially what's going on in the election. And there's a person that came online immediately and was like, I hope this is good news. Well, I'm not going to say anything other than good news on this channel, so don't even worry about that. So, but I am going to talk straight to you. So there's a lot of good things coming out, and there are some things that we should be concerned about in some ways, but the way I see it, I think, and that comes from outside our control, like, election fraud, but I think even Trump has that under control. But I'm going to talk about that. And if you're just like overwhelmed with so much stuff that's going on inside of like just the media and you're not getting good information, well, I'm going to cover everything that's pretty much gone on today, just for today. And I have a ton of slides to go through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this thing down in a few ways. So before I do that, let me just first say, again, my name is Kyle. If this is your first time here, this is The Conservative Take. We are a channel that we take culture, TV, movies, and politics. We filter it to you the right way. And if you want to support us, we have a join button on our YouTube channel. Check it out. This is simulcast on Facebook as well. And so what this is going to be simply is going to be a slide. I'm going to go through all the stuff I have. I've got people helping me actually doing this stuff for me. I have interns who are actually political science majors, and they just want to help out. So they put this stuff together for me, and it really works out really well. So I really appreciate everyone who's helped me put this together. I couldn't do it without you guys. So with that, let's just jump right in. All right, I'm gonna keep this video to about 30 minutes and cut it short. And if there's any questions, please comment, and I will get to those probably at the end. And a lot of this I'm going through for the first time with you. So we're gonna read some of it, and we're gonna talk about it. Well, I'm gonna talk about it and give you my impression on that. All right, so here we go. So what we want to first talk about is, well, like I said before, this is so by the way, just so you know, this slide presentation is actually available. If you're a member of the channel, you can go to the website. It's free. You can click on login, subscribe, and there's a link to this particular presentation. It's a little bit dated. I'm updated because I add more slides up to the minute of this particular presentation, but it's there as is now if you want to go check it out, if you're a member already. If you're on a Discord server, you can subscribe right there, log on there. Again, that's free. Website's right there, discord.theconservativetake.com. It's up there as well. And also, if you are a member of our YouTube channel, it's already there as a link, membership link on the community tab there as well. So you can follow along and get all this information. So I'm going to be going through this pretty quickly. So I figure it'd be good to have something in your hands so you can take a look at it and look up some of these bloggers and YouTubers and articles for yourself. All right. So first thing is first, we're going to talk about the latest news just for today, for the most part, and a little bit yesterday, as of like in the afternoon. Then we're going to talk about the battleground states. I'm going to cover 9 battleground states and show you where Trump is right now and a lot of these states. And then I'm going to talk about the election map so far. How does it look? I'm even going to give a indication of what I think it's going to play out to, which is probably my first ever prediction. But it's just as of today. And things can change. So, just a spoiler alert, it looks pretty good for us, guys. That's what I'm going to say. It looks pretty good for us right now, but we can't be complacent. We need to get out and vote in the same kind of numbers we voted in 2016, and we should be good. That's kind of the spoiler. So if you want to know that, and you want to not wait till the end, that's kind of where we're headed with this. It's not negative at all. All right, so let's talk about the first latest news. So let's talk about today's news. Rasmussen poll came out today, has Trump up nationally by 1. I think it's 48% to Biden's 47%. And his approval, daily approvals, which is a different algorithm altogether, he's at 52%. And so I want to say that Rasmussen has done a good job. I've checked him out for the past 16 years, and they were one of the most accurate polls in 2016. They had the margin of victory for Hillary in terms of the popular vote, right down to the decimal. And that's something you need to think about, because I will say this right now. Right now, they're predicting Trump actually winning the popular vote. And I will say this about Rasmussen, that they have a reason. One of the reasons why their votes are so different is because they're able to actually capture more of the so-called monster vote, or the shy vote, or the silent majority vote. And a lot of that has to do with the way they ask questions, but also their polling is so much anonymous. It's anonymous. And so people are more comfortable answering these particular pollsters. So that being said, that's key. If Trump is within -4, he still has a mathematical shot of winning the popular vote. I mean, not the popular vote, but the Electoral College. And so at +1, that to me is phenomenally good. And what importance about this again is that the mainstream media wants to spin it that elderly people don't want Trump, independents don't want Trump. They want to say that suburban women don't want Trump. But this poll says the exact opposite, and they are very much different and more accurate than those guys. And so you weigh that against what we see on the ground, the actual numbers with early voting, vote by mail, and how the Republicans are just going crazy with registration and so forth. I think the mainstream media really is shooting blanks right now. Unless they can show me a real metric opposite to that, I don't want to hear it. You know, they're actually, one poll actually had them out polling women by 24%. I think it's Washington Post poll had sampling women 24% higher than men. So that kind of stuff, they kind of pull on you, man. I don't, whatever. So let's get going. All right. So right now we have right here the riots in Philly happened last night. There was a shooting. An armed person with a knife was killed by a police officer, self-defense. And of course, what did they do? They riot. And what we're seeing now, President Trump responded to the 2 nights of violent unrest by saying, claiming that the police were told to stand back and not stop the looting and rioting. And one thing you need to understand when it comes to this sort of thing is that whenever there is civil unrest, whenever there is looting, it always favors the party in favor of law and order. Without fail, it's study after study after study. The party that is of law and order is always the one that politically benefits. And of course, as a country, we all fail, but it's going to help conservatives, especially when you look at the actual suburbs around the Philadelphia area. It's going to actually help that area as well. And it's also going to tamper down the already low turnout in Philadelphia to begin with. We're going to get into Philadelphia a little bit later in Pennsylvania. Okay, so let me check on this one. Yeah, it says that the Trump is gaining more black voter support than any GOP president in memory. The black vote is going to be critical in this election, as will the Hispanic vote as well. This, by the way, is from Bill Mitchell. He's a good guy. And prayers to Bill Mitchell. He was a big time Twitter guy back in 2016. He's not feeling well. He's in the hospital. So give prayers to him and his family. So he's been tweeting out that he's in ICU and that he's feeling kind of lonely. So give him some love out there, guys. Send him some prayers. All right. So now also it has here that 77 to 80% of Dems versus only 20 to 29% are worried about coronavirus. So nearly 80% of Democrats are terrified of corona, where only 30% of Republicans are worried about it. Now you're talking about a situation here where, and now's a good time to talk about early voting. So again, if this is your first time hearing me talk, the model or the plan, the strategy of the Democrats was to do this. They were going to run the numbers up using vote by mail, use to lock down the rioting, all that stuff, to fear, to get their already lazy base to vote by mail, run the numbers up, overwhelm the Republicans, because they felt that they typically have the better effort of voting early than Republicans. And when Republicans on day of election were to come out in droves as they expected them to, they would maybe get a lead in some of the key battleground states. But after the fact, there are going to be some mail-in votes that are going to have to be counted, and they were going to run those after election as long as possible to count those votes to help to let them know how many votes they need to win by. I mean, and they're trying to get court case after court case to do that. But one by one, the Trump campaign and their lawyers and the GOP have done a really good job of getting numerous court rulings in our favor. And I'm talking about one later. I don't want to spoil it right now, but there's one involving Philadelphia I want to talk about in a little bit. A 5-3 decision, Supreme Court struck down the 7th Court of Appeals decision for Wisconsin for after election day voting, ballot counting. That was ruled in our favor. So now that means that now they're just down to the day of election voting. And right now it appears, well, it's not appears, it's a fact that Democrats are underperforming in so many different ways: youth voting, black voting, and just overall numbers when it comes to Democrats. Now, what we'll see a trend here that when the early voting first started, there was a high spike, and from there it just went down from there, and we're seeing that across the board. So there are leads in many areas, but those gaps in those leads of those areas are very, very are getting smaller. In some cases, totally evaporated. All right, so Gallup poll says Republicans dramatically less terrified of corona. And that, again, is going to lead to a low turnout on election day. Not only that, vote by mail has a failure rate of around 3 to 13%, depending on who you talk to. So Democrats have a lot of ground to make up. So we'll see. Some of the things they say on Twitter just don't make any sense, and we'll see. Okay, so here we have here from Larry Schweikart. He posted some townhall.com. Says our experimental but accurate model shows Trump winning the Electoral College again. I have a link to that as well down there. It says he says that Trump will win the popular vote too. Again, I said that Rasmussen at +1. What they're saying there is that Trump will win the popular vote. Yeah, so he says, please tell me where the 4 million missing black voters and the 1.5 million youth voters are going to come from. Like I said before, low turnout across the board. All right. Says that also here that there. This is an interesting one here because one narrative we're hearing a lot on Twitter and on the internet is that Trump is losing the suburban vote, the suburban female vote. Well, I've seen several polls where Trump's overperforming with suburban women and the elderly. And here we have a article here, or a this is from Newsweek, by the way. Definitely not your right-wing conservative publication. It says here that suburban women in Ohio say they're going to show up for Trump even though they're not telling pollsters. And so what's happening again is the Trump voter or the MAGA voter or the shy voter or the monster vote or the silent majority vote, these people two things. One, they don't trust pollsters. All right. They don't trust those guys at all. And they don't trust the government. So they're not going to show up to early voting because they don't trust it. And they really aren't going to show up or send their vote in by mail because they really don't trust that. So what we're going to see is a huge wave of people on election day voting who are Republican. And then the other side of it is the MSN I can't speak, guys. The mainstream media narrative is that they're going to vote for Biden. That's the thing. Well, yeah, sure. There's a bunch of Republicans coming out. Yes, there are a bunch of Republicans, and they're outnumbering us in like Michigan and Wisconsin and Florida, and it's getting closer in North Carolina. But those R's are going to vote for Biden. Oh yeah. So you're telling me that the most accurate poll, and others too, like Trafalgar poll, we'll talk about it a little bit, but just speaking specifically for Rasmussen, you're trying to tell me that particular poll is going to be 12 points off on their metrics across the board? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And if you look at the optics in the rallies, and I'll show you some stats from a rally that Ronna McDaniel, the GOP chair, has. It's a phenomenal, and it's consistent across rally to rally how the percentage of Democrats or never voted is such a high number. And I just don't understand or buy any of what they're talking about, because you know what, these Trump rallies actually are a higher sample of voting than what you see in some of these polls, because these Trump voters are not being called in to be polled at all. Either one, they can't find them, or two, they can find them, but they won't answer a poll. All right, so now let's get into the election so far. Okay, so right now I'm looking at what I've done essentially, guys, is that I've gone through, and my team has gone through about 10 or 15 different Twitter bloggers and articles of things that happened today, and compiled this list of stuff that's coming in. And where it's applicable, we're going to bring it forth. Where I think it's interesting, I took out a lot of stuff because I didn't think you care about it. But one of the guys is Real Election Analysis, and this guy's got a good channel. You can check him out. He says, and here's the argument I was saying before. This guy here at the bottom says he's wondering, he's upset, he's worried. He says, what are the odds we wake up on November 4th and wonder how we got it so wrong? Could this many registered Republicans be breaking ranks to vote Biden? Seems doubtful. I don't remember how close or confident everyone felt in 2016. Clearly so, though, to see how this compares. And so Real Election Analysis says, unless the same Republicans who helped Trump shatter Obama's primary records a few months ago and currently give Trump a 96 approval are voting for Biden in record numbers, I'd say we're in great shape. Absolutely. So I have to be fair and honest and be straight with you. So, like I said before, I'm not giving you bad news, but I can't just be oblivious to what the other side's saying. to me, it doesn't hold any water. Not only you have Rasmussen and other polls, but you also have actual primary data. There's a primary poll that's gone back way back since Truman that's been right on every single presidential election without fail, except for one, I believe, where the person, the candidate who won the primary turnout of his own party went on to win the election. And that model has been pretty much 99% accurate. So, yeah, I mean, this is about as negative we're going to get on this particular video, guys. But that's what the other side's saying, that these people who are Republicans are now going to switch and go Democrat, which I just don't see at all. All right, so let's talk about the battleground states here. And I sorted this out by the states that are least likely to, well, basically toss up on down to leans Trump. Okay, these are the 9. The first one is going to be Minnesota, and this is actually a Minnesota blogger. He's a Republican, but there wasn't much data as of last night. I didn't check today to see if there's anything going on in Minnesota. He said, "Hi, everyone. Target Smart, which is the Democrat firm that tries its best to come up with an estimate of, based on registered voters, who they are based on party. So they do a bunch of analytical stuff and come up with a determination. But there's nothing today. He said he'll issue something tomorrow on this, but to see if there's some more significant data that happens tonight or in the morning. Again, I didn't check on Minnesota, so I don't know anything currently on Minnesota. I do know it's in play, and early on the numbers look good, but we have to wait and see if they can come out with some more information that we can actually make an analysis on. But I haven't found anything on Minnesota as of today that's different. All right, so as far as Nevada, here we go with Nevada. Now, this is a state that most people are saying is out of play, but here it's saying here that the early voting numbers just got even better, that the Democrat advantage now in the early polling is down to just 2 percentage points, and that's good. This is from Red Eagle Politics. He's got a great channel. And Trump got several big endorsements in Nevada. He got the Nevada Trucking Association, Nevada Federation of Independent Businesses, Startup Nevada, Retail Association of Nevada, and the Associated Builders and Contractors. So he's picking up some big endorsements. And, Nevada is a state that Trump could win, right? Especially when you're dealing with the Hispanic vote there. But the problem with Nevada is always going to be Clark County, that same county that Harry Reid basically cheated to win. I mean, we had Harry Reid dead to rights, but what happened? A week later, they found a truck full of ballots, which were all for him, of course, and he ended up winning that election. Ridiculous. So Clark County is going to be the issue there, and basically the whole state of Nevada is red, except for the bottom portion south of Las Vegas. So interesting. So in combination to that, next door is Arizona. And Larry Schweikart here says that many Latino men are supporting President Trump in this election. He posted an article by NPR. He says, "Funny, every time I do a GOP event in Arizona, the Hispanics are majority women." And that's also here as well. It says here that Trump rally in Bullhead City today, as posters tell me, they are not reaching the northern Arizona ultra-conservative Trumpers. So what he's saying is, Larry's saying that his posters that talk to him, they're not getting out to the northern area where the most conservative Republicans in Arizona are. In other words, they're not being polled. It's a hidden silent vote. They're not being polled. And he says, more important, this media market bleeds into southern Nevada. So going back to Nevada, that can impact Nevada as well because it's a very conservative area and that can work together. Similarly, the way Wisconsin works well with Ohio, the way Michigan works well with Ohio, not in the football field, but in politics, they tend to work hand in hand in terms of that carryover. Just because you have a state line doesn't mean that you're going to. It's not a magic wall. It's just people live across those borders, just like West Virginia and Western Pennsylvania. Same thing. It all plays together. Okay, so back to Arizona. Arizona's fired up and ready to reelect real Donald Trump. Here, this is Rona McDonald, the GOP chairwoman. She says here, and this, by the way, if you follow her on Twitter, this is a pattern that goes without fail. 23,591 signups for Bullhead City rally, 24% not Republican, and 45% did not vote in 2016. Thank you for the thousands of supporters who turned out. One thing the Republican Party is definitely doing is they're canvassing people, and they started this off very, very early. I heard from a political insider who is heavily involved in canvassing. She told me recently that what happened was that after 2016, the Republican Party noticed that there was a huge swath of people who did not vote in the election. And if you look at the Pew data, Pew data said that 51% of people who did not vote, of the white people who do not have college, 51% did not vote. That demographic of people was heavily in Trump's corner. And what she was telling me was they're going after that vote heavily. And they've been doing this for the past 3 to 4 years. Whereas the Democrats have just barely started their ground game. Their ground game is just now kicking off, and so we have a head start on the ground. And as momentum keeps going further and further and further, as Trump keeps going to these campaign rallies 5 and 6 a day, that's going to turn people out to the elections. And that's what's going to happen when we finally get to Tuesday. It's just going to be people like let out of a cannon to go vote. And so that's what we're seeing across the board. And so Arizona is looking very, 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 very good. And this just came in a few hours ago. Says Real American Politics says that I can't talk, guys. I am so says that Arizona has gone from lean Republican to likely Republican, according to his polling. And if you go to Wisconsin, Tuffiger Group now has Biden only up by 0.4%. Statistically dead heat. And Wisconsin, some polls have it higher than that in terms of Trump leading and Biden leading. So it's a very competitive state here. Says that it's conducted on the 24th and 25th. Shows that undecided voters are shrinking and a razor-thin lead for Biden. Going out to also Wisconsin, this is as of today, the Republicans lead by party affiliation mail-in voting across the board in Wisconsin. So there's more people there are more Republicans have turned in their ballots than Democrats. There's also been more Republicans who requested ballots by vote by mail than Democrats. Interesting. Here it has, Data Antifa has, for context, the sex breakdown for 2016 was plus 4 women, 52% with 48% male. This poll is 24% more women. Now, this is the Washington Post poll I was telling you about. The Washington Post poll has, I think, Biden up by like 10, but they oversample women by 24%, even though it was plus 4 4 years ago. 20 points, really? There's your difference. And so if you cut that 10 and a half, that 20 and a half, what's that? That's 10. There's your difference right there. So that's just dishonest polling. It's just, I don't know how these pollsters get away with that, but I want to put that out there because there was a lot of talk today in Twitter about Wisconsin. So I wanted to put that out there for people who may have seen that, but that's what happened. They oversampled women by 24% and gave Biden the lead by 10%. And you cut it in half. It's a wash. So basically they're saying it's even, just like this poll here is saying. It's manipulation of the numbers, guys. That's all it is. Okay, now Pennsylvania. Now, wow, Pennsylvania is getting crazy. So right now Tuffiger Group has Biden down in Pennsylvania by 1. And it actually there were 2 polls yesterday that actually had Pennsylvania, Trump up 2 and 3 in Pennsylvania yesterday. And so right here it says here that this is Red Eagle Politics. He says, eerily similar to the poll in 2016 where he had 48-47. And what happened? They got it exactly right. So Tuffiger Group, they were exactly right on their poll last year. They had it by 1 point, and they have the same thing right now. And so what these guys do, they don't call people on the phone. This is not a opinion poll. This is a poll where they go out and look at actual number and data registration, and they come up with a number that way. So their numbers are based on what we're seeing currently on the ground. So also in Pennsylvania, this is what I was telling you about before. This just came out about 2 hours ago, that they've agreed to segregate ballots that arrive after 3/11 or 11/3 while the litigation goes on. This means that the Supreme Court has a bit more time to rule because the ballots won't be mixed in with uncontested ballots. Pennsylvania may be over. So what he's saying is that on election day, any contested ballots are going to be put in a different section. So let's say to keep the math even, let's say that early voting, Democrats put 100 votes in. All right. Day of election, early voting, Republicans put 50 votes in. So there's a negative difference on election day. So Republicans have to make up 50 votes on election day. So election day comes, they get 51 votes on election day. So they're ahead. But then after that, there's some contested stuff going on where they say, oh, we found a truckload full of ballots here. Let's look at those. There are 5 more ballots. So we should win by 4 points. No, that 5 ballots goes to another pool to get evaluated so the Supreme Court can rule on that. But in the meantime, the election is called for Trump at that point because he's leading it. And so they're keeping it segregated so it gives the Supreme Court time to figure out what's going on, keep the ballots in question separate, and they rule on those ballots separately. So that's what's happening now. That was a ruling. I'm not sure if that's binding or not, but this is what I've heard. So I'll get more information on that. But it seems like that's what's going on. If it changes, I'll let you guys know. But that's good news because Pennsylvania, again, we were worried about counting ballots after election, which is really, really shaky and shady. And Philadelphia, by the way, is a very, very corrupt district. And Governor Wolf of Pennsylvania hasn't done us any favors. And Trump campaign is pulling in lawyers from their base and push them into Philadelphia to be poll watchers and to overlook what's going on there because Pennsylvania is critical for Biden. If Biden loses Pennsylvania, he doesn't have much of a path. Okay. Of course, I'm saying the same thing they told us in 2016 about Florida, but Pennsylvania is incredibly important for Biden, mainly because he's been campaigning so much there, and it's almost like he's all in. So that's where we are with Pennsylvania. And the next state here is Michigan. Michigan here, this is from States Poll, and I will get into them a little bit later. States Poll, they're a neutral group. They claim to be nonpartisan. They actually have, if you add in the leaners, the people that are deciding, or I'm not decided yet, but I'm leaning Trump, then he actually has Trump by 7 points in Michigan, which he would say later on that is probably more likely to be 2 or 3. But as far as Michigan is concerned, there are several polls that have Michigan up. I've seen polls, Trump campaign says he's up by 3 in their internals. Michigan, again, is another state that Republicans are leading early voting. There are more people who've asked for ballots who are Republican than Democrats in Michigan, and there's more Republicans in Michigan who've actually returned ballots than Democrats. So if they're voting for Trump, there you go. Take that plus everything else we know about the turnout levels, underperforming of blacks, underperforming of youth. Detroit area is probably going to be way down. Not to mention the black support that Trump's already getting. It's just going to be really hard for Democrats. Then you talk about the insane Trump base that's going to come out all over the state. Yeah, you can see why he has a 7-point lead here in this particular poll. But again, to be safe, I'd look somewhere around 2 to 3 in terms of winning the state. But you never know. Michigan here, this is ready to go politics. He says here that Trump took my advice. He's doing a rally at the exact airport I said he should, the Oakland County International Airport in Waterford, Michigan. Waterford, while not maxed out, meaning last time it wasn't, there's more Republican votes that could have been gotten. He said, swung red heavily and was full of white-collar whites who have seen their township decimated by lack of opportunity. And again, I go back to those 200 counties in the Rust Belt, which basically were voting for Democrats for decades, going back to 1984, but suddenly switched and flipped to Trump in 2016 by a 40-point swing. These people saw something that they didn't like was going on in the country. They didn't like illegal immigration. They didn't like how, personally, I can't speak for them directly, but I can just imagine how white people are being treated in this country, how it's almost as if you're white, then you're like the bad guy, the enemy, the way the left is just saying these horrible things about American culture, about faith, the Bible, everything that we stand for, hard work and effort. And so people just saw their lives being dried up. They see the jobs shipped out overseas. NAFTA was a horrible thing over the past 20, 30 years. It just took this country and shipped it overseas. And we saw towns just dry up, which is why it's called the Rust Belt. So according to this guy here, Red, he says that it's going to be good that he went there. And we will see Michigan. I suspect Michigan will go red by 2 points or more, I would think. Okay, now North Carolina. Schweikart says here, watching real time as North Carolina turns red. We are ahead of 2016 pace. Folks, Trump may win North Carolina by 5. Check out this link, check out this link here. It's called joeisdone.github.io / North Carolina. This link is incredible. I'll paraphrase it right now. It's an animated link. You go in there and it's updated by, I think, the State Board of Elections of the vote turnouts, what's going on. You can sort it by demographics, by black voter, white voter, Republican, whatever. What's interesting about this particular map is if you hover over some of the most liberal counties in North Carolina, let's say like Orange County, where Chapel Hill, or let's say Wake County, where that's going to be Durham and the Raleigh area, or let's say Guilford County, a lot of colleges there, or let's say I think Buncombe County, I believe that's going to be Asheville. I may have that wrong. All those counties, believe it or not, are leaning Trump in terms of registration, in terms of voter turnout and vote by mail and by early voting. I had to read it a couple of times. I sent out 4 or 5 texts to people and say, "Hey, can you look at this and check these numbers? Because I don't get it." And here's the funny thing: if you go out to other counties like Pitt County and Randolph County, highly Republican counties, it's lean Biden. You know why? Because no one has come out to vote yet. So I'm looking at this map. I'm like, you know what? According to this, Trump may win every single county in North Carolina, which is like it's like 100. So, I mean, it's astonishing. And so when he looked at this and says Trump may win North Carolina by 5, I see where he's coming from. And you look on that map and check for yourself and see for yourself what you think. And comment below and let me know if there's anything that I'm missing on that. It's really, really incredible. Also, North Carolina says, don't look now, but the North Carolina Democrats' early vote lead has fallen to 9,000 fewer than Democrats finished in 2016 when Hillary lost by 3. But oh my goodness, we're losing North Carolina. That's a comment to people who are freaking out over what they feel is a bad showing for Republicans in North Carolina. He's telling them no, it's actually really good showing if you compare it to 2016. It's really, really good because Trump won Carolina by nearly 4 points in 16. Also, check this out. So this map here is the Democrat lead in voter registration by year. So to the left, you'll see a map of North Carolina, 2004. It's red, Carolina. And then 2008, that was Obama's year. Democrats led North Carolina in voter registration, I guess 9,000 or 90, looks like 900,000. Okay. And then the following year, it was in 2012, Republicans led and go down further to 2016. It's still Republican led and going all the way down to 2020. It's trending that we're going to lead as well. So North Carolina is trending Republican in terms of voter registration. And we'll see this 2 more times in 2 more different states as we go on. And by the way, these are final numbers, by the way. All right. So in Florida, big state here, Florida, I almost didn't even want to talk about Florida because it's almost like why even talk about it? I mean, Trump is just crushing it in Florida by numbers that people just can't even fathom right now. So right now in Florida, the in-person early vote, Republicans are leading. This is an old number. This is actually 400,000 now. They're leading Democrats by 400,000 in in-person voting. The Democrats' total vote by mail early vote lead is now less than this, but 232,000. In 2016, the election day lead was 88,000. And the number one target for the Republicans to get to election eve is 144,000. So what he's done here is, you may say, wow, 88,000 is so far from 223,000, sorry, 232,000 or 144,000. That's a long ways off. Why is it 60,000 votes off? It's because of the Democrats cannibalizing their votes. They push their people to not vote in person, vote by mail instead of voting in person. So they're getting people who would normally stand in line on election day. They got them to vote early. So that's who you're seeing show up. And what we're also seeing is that these people, these 4x4 people, which is voting every 4 years, every 4 cycle, that these super voters are the ones who are eating up all of their total, meaning they don't have anyone else left to vote. And so, whereas you see 75% of Democrats voting have already voted, we're seeing 25% of Republicans have voted, meaning there's a much bigger upside of Republicans that are voted, not to mention, which you can't measure, the ones who have never voted. What's that vote going to be? So that's why we have 144. And he seems to think that they're going to be able to do that by election day, no problem. And like I said, this number gets lower and lower as we go forward. And here's the registration going back to 1996. Democrats led voter registration in 96. They led in 2008, of course, with Obama, and they led again in 2012. But in 2016, Republicans led. And look at that arrow going straight down to 2020. That's incredible. So that's Florida. And looks very good on the ground there, guys. Also, I mentioned this was yesterday, that President Trump is actually leading the Real Clear Politics average in Florida. And the early vote lead for Dems is roughly 250,000. Of course, that was yesterday. Now it was 232. Right now, it's probably about 210 right now. By the time you see this video, I don't know what it is right now, but it's less than that. It's just like every hour, the Republicans are catching up by about 6,000 votes every hour. It's incredible. All right, so let's keep going. Oh, one more, Florida. Okay, this means that Republicans are just 133,000 from where they started election day in 2016. This is actually about an hour ago. So that's incredible. So the differential right there is that vote by mail and early voting combined is shrinking every single hour. All right, the great state of Ohio. For you Buckeye fans out there, Ohio is another state that Trump looks extremely good in. It's another one of those states where Republicans are outpacing Democrats in early voting and vote by mail. So again, Trump won Ohio by almost 9 points in 2016. And I just call right now Ohio safe. I mean, Trump's moved his people out of there. He started running major ad buys 2 weeks ago. His campaign guy in Ohio, he moved him to Pennsylvania. So, Ohio is about as, to me, it's about as certain as you're going to get. With the one caveat that those Republicans don't go Biden, which makes no sense. If I saw other data out there that said, let's say a big difference in, if we saw a Rasmussen poll where Trump was -4 or like -12, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, he was -12 3 weeks ago, where they undersampled Republicans by about 15 points. They had him at 73% Republicans. Then I'd be concerned, but we're not seeing that. And so I think that's just the outlier poll that they put out there. And right now, this looks strong for Ohio. And again, the eye test is all you need to see. These rallies are insanely big. And just imagine how big these rallies would be if they weren't forced to be at airports. If they could be in stadiums, it would be much larger, much larger. Okay, so here we are. We're almost done. This is the last section here, election so far. I'm going to go over a few, I guess, predictions, but this is really what we're seeing on the ground in terms of early voting, vote by mail, what the Electoral College map could look like. Let's start here with states poll. Right now they have here, I'm sorry, this is the Senate. Okay, this is the Senate. So in the Senate, they have Republicans solid 52 and Dems 48. I am pretty much seeing this across the board. But if you look at Arizona, we could probably get 53 because McSally was actually leading at one point. So it could be 53, it could be 52, maybe 51 if we lose one. But the Senate looks pretty sound for the Republicans if they keep the pace up. And of course, when you add in the coattails that President Trump has, I see 52 being no problem. I'm not sure if Collins is running. Is Collins running? Because she voted against Comey Barrett. So I don't know about that, but this is what they have there for this. And states poll was pretty accurate in 2016 as well. And so for the presidential race, they have it right now. Trump 285, Biden 232. That's with the caveat of toss-ups for Arizona and toss-ups for Wisconsin, which I think, based on what I know in the past hour or so, what's going on with the scandal with Hunter Biden, what's going on with the fracking issues, what's going on with just overall credibility of Biden in general, it's eroding his base, and the coalition of the Biden campaign is just falling apart. They're all over the place. They are scattered. So with this, even if it went to Biden, Arizona, and Wisconsin, he would still have 285, which would be enough to win. But I think he'll get one of those, if not both of them. So that's where they have it. And see, now this is an older one. No, this is from today as well. This is Robert Barnes. He's a lawyer, a pollster. He has Trump winning Arizona, winning Minnesota, and winning Wisconsin, and winning New Hampshire, putting Trump at 320. Now, Trump lost New Hampshire by about 3,000 votes. So New Hampshire is definitely in play. Minnesota's definitely in play. So this is a very, very achievable map, especially if the numbers play out the way we're seeing it. If the enthusiasm plays out what we're seeing in the polls on November 3rd, and what we're not seeing with Democrats on November 3rd, he could even pick up Nevada. He could even probably pick up, I'm not going to say Virginia, but there's people saying that Virginia could be close because of the lack of college activity there, the lack of black voters that are turning out there, the Trump overperforming in the suburbs, that he could pull Virginia within 5 points or better. Remember, Trump led Virginia the entire night on 2016. But it wasn't until Fairfax came in and Alexandria, some of those northern states, those government contractor jobs came in. It became a rout at that point. But that's what he sees there, 320. This is a real American analysis. This is a few days old. So the numbers here may or may not be the same with him, but he has not put out a new poll. Here he has Trump at 326. The difference here is he has Trump picking up Nevada. That's the difference there. So again, Trump's ceiling could be around 326. I say it could be even higher than that if he picks up like Virginia. I mean, Virginia could really be in play, guys. I mean, if this map turns out like this, it could be a lot worse for Democrats. Even their worst fears can even fathom. All right. So this here is the map that looks like if we just go off on just on the ground, nothing else, based on early numbers. And so right now we have a Trump at 264 and Harris at 210, because of course Biden won't be around much longer. And so Trump, in this case, will only have to pick up one of these states to win. Nevada would put him right at 270. Arizona will put him over. Minnesota will put him at 274. And Pennsylvania will put him over at 284. So, guys, I mean, if you can't get excited about this map right here, I don't know what will. Again, it's the caveat. I will say this again, that the Trump people, that the Republicans that are coming out are voting for Trump in numbers similar to 2016. If that's the case, we're in good shape. And plus, remember back in 2016, every single primary or outside of, let's say, the Iowa caucus, where the whole thing with Ted Cruz and Ben Carson, they kind of got there. Outside of those, some of the smaller caucuses and some of those more Republican establishment states, Trump crushed voting. Every single time he went out for a poll, he just destroyed it. I mean, it was even every single time people get a chance to vote for Trump, it is just like crazy. So why are we going to think all of a sudden that today, after 4 years of him doing incredible work for this country, that's going to change? It's going to be just like the primaries, where he just crushed it at 96%, where he took Obama's incumbent record, and shattered it. And I don't see how it's going to be any different, especially when you talk about law and order, people concerned with their safety, this Biden scandal going on. People hate Kamala Harris because she's just an unlikable person. I don't, you take the elderly, you take suburban women, fine. I will raise you with Hispanics at a 5 to 10% bigger margin. I'll raise you with blacks at a 3 to 5 or 6% advantage. I raise you with young voters coming out at lower numbers, and I raise you with the COVID lockdown scaring the living crap out of their people, so they're going to have less people to show up. I raise you the fact that colleges aren't going to be on campus. There's not going to be any souls to the poll, busing people to and from, because the campuses are locked down. All right. So you can have your little suburban women and elderly, if that's even true, but everything else at worst will be a wash, which still will be a Trump win. All right. Leading me into my last one. This is what I think it's going to look like if it were to be held today. This is the conservative take analysis. I see Trump at 306. I see him taking Nebraska 2nd district. I see him taking Maine 2nd district as well, as he did in 2016. In fact, Trump was in Nebraska for that very reason, for that second district there, for that one point there. And I see him taking Arizona based on what I know from today. And I have him taking Carolina and Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. But Pennsylvania, I think, is going to come after the fact. They won't be calling Pennsylvania the day of the election. They just won't do that. So that's how I see it right now, based on what I know. And one thing to also know, two things: that no president has won the presidency without winning either Florida or Ohio. And President Trump is doing his best in Florida and Ohio. And as Florida goes, so does the Rust Belt. If Florida goes right, the Rust Belt goes right without fail. It's rock. It's just, that's just the way it is. And so with these people in the mainstream media, what they're banking on and what their spin is, what their narrative is to get you to be disenfranchised, not to show up, is to tell you that the Republicans who are coming out now are mad at Trump and they are not going to vote for him again at super high numbers, like 20%. And there's just no way. There's just no way. And even if that was the case, you're going to have more people who haven't voted. You know, that 45% in that Rona McDonald stat there in Nevada, which I can show you more times it's happened than not on that. And also the Black support and also the Hispanic support. That's going to be bigger than it was before. So either way, I think President Trump is in great shape. So with that, I'm going to answer some questions here. Let me see if we got any questions here online. See if I can get some in here. All right, so let me just put some on the screen here. Okay, do I think Texas will flip? That's something I'm seeing a lot about. No way. No, not this year at least. Maybe next time, but not this time. I think Trump probably wins that by 5, maybe more. I haven't really spent a lot of time on Texas. Maybe I look at a little more closely for you, because I am hearing a lot of stuff on the other side that Texas is going to win or flip. And I think a part of that is just the media needs to have something to hang their hopes on, right? If they can win Texas, it can solve all their problems with being behind in Carolina or being behind in Florida. It kind of can take care of those two. It can kind of take care of 2 states for them. And it will demoralize Republicans. So I think that's more of that what's going on, but I don't have anything definitive on that, other than the people that I've talked to and looked at. All feel Texas is strong for Trump this way around. Let me see. Yeah. Now, we haven't heard a lot about the voter fraud in terms of the dead voting, but there's a Veritas video that came out. I haven't watched it yet, about some voter fraud going on. I've seen voter fraud in Texas, obviously Pennsylvania, and other states. And I just hope that the Trump campaign and their lawyers are on top of it. I'm sure they are. And with the Supreme Court being in place, that they can move quickly to get these things looked at and shut down and ruled on. Yeah, and so Ruby's here says that there's going to be a massive vote. Trump will win the popular vote and electoral vote by a very big margin. And Ruby's, that is right on line with what Rasmussen is saying. Their polling is accurate. I mean, I've been following them for a long time, and the one time they were off in 2012, I think they had Romney winning that year, and he didn't win, even though he should have won. But they're not going to be off 11 points. They're just not going to be they're not going to be off that much. And like I said, if their final poll has Trump at -4, that's still mathematical for Trump to win the popular vote. Why don't you say popular vote? The Electoral College, because he was down 2 with Hillary and won the Electoral College. He lost the popular vote, but like I said, who cares if California and New York run up the numbers to 10 million voters? Who cares, because it's still going to be 55, right? It's still going to be whatever New York has. So it doesn't make a difference what the popular vote is. The Electoral College is what means everything. So let's see. I agree. We should be praying about this, and I think I'm going to be praying about this, because the one thing I will be hesitant about is the 2 things of the fraud, the fact that the media is so the gloves are off. They don't care about their bias, and also the COVID. The whole vote by mail. This has never really happened before. So be curious to know how it all plays out. It could work incredibly in favor of Trump, or it could work marginally in favor of Trump. It could be, I won't even entertain anything other than that. So this examination is exactly what you're looking for. Is more realistic. Okay. So here it says, this examination is exactly what I was looking for. It's more realistic than, I'm not sure what that means. Restitute analysis. Yeah, and see, the thing about these numbers is that they're coming from the ground. It's not like it's, you can go find this for yourself. You can go on to I have a link here. I'll give you. It's basically you can go out and look at the polling as it gets released, and you can do this yourself. And nice people are out there doing this. And there's some people who are really, really nerdy about this. Like this one guy who went out there. I think he did it. He did a analysis on the suburbs in Philadelphia and why the riots are going to swing the state of Pennsylvania to Trump. And he was just saying, look at these counties and look at the numbers that are coming out. And it's like, so, and they're really analytical, right? I'm basically just taking this and being an aggregator of stuff that our team has found and putting it out there so you guys can look at it, because it's so much information to look at. I want to compile it together, put it out there. You guys can look at it for yourself. If I'm wrong, whatever on this stuff, let me know. But I've only given my opinion on one thing, and that was that last Electoral College poll. That was it. Everything else is not my opinion. It's just what I'm seeing and putting out there for you guys to look at. Oh, got some contributions here. Thank you so much for that, Rubies. Thank you so much. Yeah, because I never advertise how to do this. I never even tell people to do it. But I appreciate any little bit of contribution that I can get, because it does take some work to do this, and it helps me to be encouraged to do more, because sometimes I just don't feel like doing it. It's like, yeah, I don't want to feel like doing it. But then someone gives me like a nickel, right? A nickel. I'm like, wow, you know what? That person does not have a nickel anymore. That nickel is now mine, and that is something that I take very, very seriously, and I appreciate it. And that encourages me to do more of this type of stuff. And again, thank you again for that, Rubies. I really appreciate that. I'm going to start doing some shout outs if I can figure out how to do that. I need to get some technology here so I can maybe recognize people more on some of this stuff, but I really do appreciate it here. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. So we have an Australian citizen here. Hiya, Kyle. Watching from Australia. Trump 2020. How's my Australian accent? Cool, man. That's awesome. This is a powerful medium that we have, guys. And the fact that the media is suppressing the vote, the fact that they are, they're trying to suppress the vote, and the fact that they are just totally in the tank for Biden. And I didn't cover any of the Hunter Biden stuff because I feel I left that to a different video maybe. But this whole Hunter Biden thing is just disgusting. Bobulinski comes out here with all this evidence, firsthand eyewitness testimony, audio recordings. They have emails. They have pictures. They have they have about 1,000 times more stuff they had on Trump when they impeached him, or they had 1,000, even 1,000,000 times more stuff they had on Kavanaugh when they went back to his high school days and had nothing on him. And this has to play in the independent voters' thinking. I heard that the viewing last night of the Bobulinski interview with Tucker Carlson was 5.4 million people. And so the information is getting out. And that's awesome because there's still time for it to get out even further. Right now, we're about 6 days out. And once the news cycle ends, there's going to be more stuff on social media going out. And I think more people are going to know about it. And they're just going to, when it comes down to that voting booth and they figure out they're undecided, they're in their conscience can be like, look, I can't support this guy. He sold the country out for personal benefit. And not just one time. For years, for decades, his whole family enriched his whole family. The movie Trump Card with Dinesh D'Souza, he talks about that in that. He actually explains how it was done because campaign finance laws has a no bribe act, which basically says you can't be bribed as a public official, but there's no scrutiny put on family members. So if you run like a crime boss, if you're, Marlon Brando, right, then you get your cut, right? You get your cut. You bring the money in, give me my cut, right? And that appears to be how the operation is being run. So, but the fact that there's no curiosity by the media at all is just disgusting. And I think when Trump wins, the hammer needs to fall straight up. And Barr and Durham, I don't know what y'all doing, but you guys are really upsetting me as well. But anyway. I don't want to put things on a down note. I want to keep things on a positive note. So let me see here. Exactly. Now, here's the thing, Jeremiah. Trump needs to get to 270. I would say 4 to be safe, sort of. Because you have this thing called faithless electors. There are these electoral college people who, given the state what it is, I think each state's different. They have the ability to go off cuff and go away from the popular vote. And I mentioned this before. In 2016, Trump, I think he won 306 or 304. I think it's 304. And he actually lost 2 electoral college votes and finalized around 302 officially. Because 2 of them, one voted for like Colin Powell, another one voted for someone else. But Hillary lost like 4. So the net difference was actually higher than on election night. But so I think Trump needs to be somewhere around 275, 274, somewhere in there, just as a buffer, because if he's at 270, they're going to try some funny business for real. So, yeah. What else we got here? See, okay, I'm going a little further here, guys. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, let me just keep on this here. Exactly, Jeremiah, Sam's. Yep. See, Hawaii and Delaware will go to Biden. That's for sure. Absolutely. Popular vote will be a cherry on top. Look, guys, popular vote would be awesome because that would be a mandate, and the media would be up in air and up in arms about that. Let's see, do you see the House turning red? Great question, Susan. I do not know, but I will say this: I was there for the two shifts back in '94, for back in I think it was 2010. Where it was just a wave and no one predicted it, right? So if Trump wins the popular vote, the House will go red. It's almost a mathematical certainty because down ballot stuff like that, people just are voting a straight ticket and it just flows that way. I checked about 3 weeks ago where it was like 8 seats that were kind of like in the air for us. We need to get like 24 to flip it. It very well could happen. If Trump wins a close race, probably not. But this kind of stuff rolls, right? And if he wins a mandate, the House will definitely flip, or we'll get so close that they will have no power whatsoever on their side. So, and you don't mind Pelosi having the majority with maybe 2 or 3 votes. You can always pull someone on your side to prevent her from doing whatever she wants to do. So, even though they can be whipped into shape. But at 2 points there, if you have a person who's in an unsafe seat, you can kind of make deals there and prevent them from doing anything too stupid. Hey, Team Jesus, how are you doing? Team Jesus is one of our sponsors for the channel. Thank you. Shout out to Team Jesus. You are actually our first sponsor. You can see your little icon there denoting that. Thank you for coming on, for your support so much. Let me see here. Susan McMahon, anything's possible. I agree. What do you think about going California? I think California will be red in about 8 years, with the caveat that Trump wins. If Trump doesn't win, all bets are off because the borders can be wide open. But if Trump wins, the walls can be finished. Immigration's already been cut down by about 75% already. His partnerships with Central America and Mexico to keep the border, keep them from coming up our way is in place. You're going to see a more prosperous economy. Hispanics and Latinos who come across the border are going to see more wealth increase. They're going to want to keep that. They're leaving a bad country. They're going to recognize first generation that this is a good country. Some of the problems is you have some generations that just don't know where they came from, like blacks. You tell a Republican back in 1865 to vote Democrat. Oh, yeah, right. That's not going to happen. It barely happened in 33, but the only reason I did was because of the FDR New Deal. And even then, many blacks say, nah, you keep your money. I'm not voting for that party because they just burned across my backyard last night. So as long as you go in generational wise, those generations forget, like Cuban Americans in Florida, many of those people, first generation who came over, know, but the kids, not so much. So if Trump wins, I think California, and he tells another person in 2024, California will be red in 8 years. 8 years. If we work hard at it. So, and plus, people are moving out of California left and right. So, let me see here. Yeah, I don't use Twitter that much. I do use Parler. Twitter, my following there is very, very small. So I don't really care that much about it. I do it simply to have and to propagate information. It'll be there if it ever grows, but I figure I'm probably being shadow banned anyway. So what's the point of even doing it? Let me see. Talk to your friends and family who are Republicans and conservatives and ask them if they're still voting. That's great. Yeah. So Jeremiah, that leads me to something to think about here is, let me get out of this here, guys. Let me go to full screen. Sorry. That's probably a little annoying to you guys. Sorry. So let me see. So enthusiasm is so important, right? Enthusiasm is what gets people off the couch, grabbing the neighbor, grab the barber, grab the dentist, grab, next door neighbor, the family, and all go together to the polls together. That's what enthusiasm gets you. And I think America right now, the people that are voting for Trump, understand now what the stake of this country is. I mean, every year we say, this is the most important election year in our lifetime. Well, 2016 was, but 2020 is even more so. And I think in those past 4 years, people have seen several things. One, they've seen that Trump hasn't destroyed the world. He hasn't, the ice caps haven't melted, there's no nuclear holocaust anywhere. He's done the exact opposite. He's actually ended like 3 wars. North Korea, Afghanistan, and I think was Iraq finished too? I don't know. But he's pulling our troops out of Germany and other areas around the world. He's not about this globalization stuff. And he's seeing that. They're seeing the fact that the economy got really, 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 really hot really, really quickly, with 401ks going through the roof, with unemployment rates going down, with employment rate going up, Black unemployment, Asian unemployment, women unemployment, Hispanic unemployment at record numbers. Women was like nearly an all-time record, not quite, but everyone else was a record number. And then they're saying on the contrast, how insanely, I put this in a good way, this is a family channel, how insanely stupid the left is, and how mean-spirited they are, and how evil they can act. From the fact of them taking enacting out an assassination play in New York, cutting off the president's head in blood, attacking his family members, Barron Trump and his Ivanka Trump, going to the lengths of framing him, spying on his campaign, rioting in the streets, from shutting down cities, locking us down, making us wear masks. There's can't get toilet paper. People are seeing for the first time Venezuela here in America. They're seeing Rwanda here in America. They're seeing our city streets. The same thing they see in Hong Kong going on here in America. And they're saying, you know what? Damn it, this could happen to us. This could be America. Well, screw that. I'm going to get out here and I'm going to vote. And I think that's what we're seeing here, this inswell of people trying to take their country back. Because I think they see the stake so high, not just theoretical, actual. Go on YouTube. Look at Antifa. Look at BLM. Look what they're doing. And look at how the media is covering up one of the biggest scandals, 3 of the biggest scandals in the history of America. And that, to me, is what's going to get people, like you said, Jeremiah, and their friends to talk to other people and get them to vote. Let me see here. How's Detroit trending? That's a good question. I don't know, but it was like any other city, low Black turnout, low youth turnout. Detroit was underperformed incredibly. Remember, Biden is underperforming Hillary in just about every single category in 2016. So I would imagine, I don't have the data here for Detroit, but I'd imagine it's on par for 2016, if not less. Yeah, hit the like button. Yeah, please. And subscribe. Yeah, if you want to subscribe to this channel, please. We're trying to reach 10,000 subscribers. What that does is it helps with the channel in terms of being able to be self-sufficient. It's like a magic number. You can do ad buys on the channel with that way. So 10,000 is a good goal for us, and we're going to go beyond that. And hopefully, when Trump wins, I can go back to some more, less abrasive topics, right? I'd love to go back and talk about movies and sports and stuff like that, and how social justice warriors are affecting our culture. But right now, this is just too important to ignore. So, thank you so much, Raywood, for that contribution. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that so much. I really, you guys can get me up in here crying, man, because I don't anticipate any of this stuff. I just know, for me, when I give money to other YouTubers or campaigns, whatever, I know that I feel a need in my heart to reach out to these people, to give them something, to allow them to continue what they're doing, because I like what they're doing, and to encourage what they're doing. And this does that for me. It really does. I really, really appreciate all the support and love you guys give me. Because if you understand the stuff that I get, instant messenger and Facebook, You know, you never really ever get used to it, but just to add how many attacks you get, it's just it just and plus the news cycles wear on you. So this really does help, and you put yourself out there. We have a public YouTube channel where anyone can comment. It's interesting. I say the least. So thanks for your reminder, Mr. Fox. Thank you, Team Jesus. You are awesome, Team Jesus. Thank you so much. Have I seen a lot of big rallies across California? Any chance California goes red? Tell you what, man, I don't see California going red this cycle. It's just not enough people have moved out yet. But one thing California can do is cut down that 2.3 million that Hillary won by and give us the popular vote. See, whether or not California flips or not is really immaterial. What's really important is that we get two things: the Electoral College, number one, and number two, that popular vote. Because what that would do is it would tell those Democrats who are trying to rewrite the Electoral College, because they're so afraid that the Electoral College isn't representative of the people, it will cut that argument way out, because this is a whole coalition that if Trump wins the popular vote, then all these states are in alignment to vote for Trump. In other words, California would go, Oregon would go, Washington would go, but there's a caveat to that. It has to be accepted first. It hasn't been accepted yet. So it would put all that to an end. So every vote counts no matter where you are in this country, even if you're in a deep blue state like Illinois. Illinois will not go red unless unless Chicago gets transported somewhere else. But every vote, even Illinois, it counts to that second goal of the popular vote. Let me see here. I saw this current violent trend among the left in 2016 when a female Trump supporter got mercilessly egged in California. Then a left-wing media group I was following tried to justify it. The examples go on and on and on. And it was funny because Martin Luther King basically said, you know what, we're not going to fight. We're not going to be violent. And early on, and even to this day, Trump supporters have been mostly nonviolent. And when they aren't nonviolent, they're just defending themselves. They're protecting their property or their own person. And so I don't even think, toward the end, MLK was about, protecting himself. So he kind of wavered on that a little bit. But in terms of protesting, he was absolutely nonviolent. But when it came to protecting your personal property and your family, yes. And so we've been very, very understanding through all these different things that have been happening to us. And that's got to play to the independent thinker, the independent voter who sees that, we're not the bad guys here. We're the ones trying to make our country better. Yet you'll see a rally with Trump supporters holding the American flag, waving banners, and if a Hillary person will come in, or a Biden supporter will come in, or an Antifa person will come in, we talk to them, yes, but we're not shouting them down, we're not beating them up, right? Other side's different story altogether, and that's just something that needs to be recognized. And so, thank you for that, Rubies. Oh, another contribution. Thank you so much, Team Jesus. You are the TDS is real, and I've heard people say, "I will vote for anybody but Trump." Yes, but hopefully they're all Democrats. Yes, that's a good point. It's the big question comes down to this: is how in tune are people with the mainstream media? Now, the one metric we can look at is the debates. Okay, the debates with, and I did a video on this, where basically you look at the online viewing for Biden was horrendous. And if you look at the online viewing for Trump, it was through the roof, like 10 times higher in many ways. And the combined total, more people saw the Republican convention than they saw the Democrat convention by a mile. And the thing there is, to your point, Team Jesus, is that I think those people who have TDS are the ones who are watching TV. They're watching, MSNBC. They're watching, CNN. In some cases, I hate to say it, Fox News, because they're getting kind of, crazy here in some ways, outside of Tucker, outside of Hannity, and a couple of others. So I'm hoping that part of the group is not as big, but you know what? There's lots of data out there that shows that this is just the radical left. Because if you look at like a survey they did, basically asking people, what were your thoughts of President Trump's comments on Charlottesville when he said there were good people on both sides? The question was, do you think he was meaning that Klansmen are good, or do you think it was that he was just saying it, that both people on both sides were good, and that there's some bad and bad on some sides and good on some sides too? That it was more of a neutral statement. Over 70% of people thought that it was a neutral statement, had nothing to do with racism at all. That told me, of course, that 30% were agreeing with that. They're the ones who are watching CNN and MSNBC and so forth. So those are the people who are the TDS people, the ones who are just out of control. They have a louder voice, but they're nowhere near the majority. And so, and I can count different polls that say the same thing. We see immigration, you see it's 30% are the ones who want total amnesty. It's usually at 33% are the ones that want this Green New Deal stuff and radically left stuff. And that's what I think we're dealing with here. And that's what I think we'll see on election night. We'll see the radical left come out and do the little thing. And they won't come out to vote because they're lazy. Maybe they're overconfident. And the Republicans, Trump supporters, people who didn't vote in 2016, the independents, some libertarians maybe, Bernie supporters as well, who are reasonable, will come our way and vote for us. So, but thank you for that contribution, Team Jesus. So thank you so much. I'm going to do something special for you. There's actually a link out there for you right now. If you want to check out the notes there, you can go to the community tab right now and click on the PDF for this. You can look at that right now. Thanks so much. Let's see where we at here. Okay, let me go through this pretty quickly. What's up, Pedro? How you doing? Good to see you. California's not going red. I don't think so either, unfortunately. Thank you, Rubies. YouTube member. Thank you so much for that as well. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I can't say thank you enough, guys. I really can't. I'm trying to get some of these comments here, questions. Hey, Pedro, welcome. Thank you so much, Pedro. You're awesome. Let's see. That's a question here. As long as San Francisco and Los Angeles are still being mega cities, then California would be a blue state. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, there was a big push to actually split the state from Northern California to Southern California, and let Northern California be the more conservative side of it. So that didn't go anywhere. So let me see here. Defund the mainstream media and social media boycotts their advertisers. Rudy Giuliani said today that Trump plans to drop the hammer on Facebook, Twitter, and what's the other one? Facebook, Twitter, and forget the other one, but the three big ones. Google, sorry, and basically say, hey, we're going to come after you guys because what you're doing is election tampering. It's you guys are not a media company. You can't be censoring people. One of the reasons why you're in the platform you're in is because you're not giving political opinion. So now you're acting like you're a publishing company, and so that needs to be separated, broken up, or whatever. And with the Supreme Court that we have now, hopefully that will be a slam dunk for us. See, Chicago has shrunk by 200,000 over the last 10 years. It will go red over time. Yeah, Chicago is a crazy city, man. Every single councilman, they call them something else in Chicago. Every single one of those city council people in Chicago, eldermen or elderly, what they're called, they are all Democrats. And that's one of the most corrupt cities in the country. And Barack Obama came out of that area. And so we wonder why he was able to do what he did, tampering on the campaign and stuff like that. So it's just something that he does. And hopefully Chicago, the poor people of Illinois, which is fairly conservative outside of Chicago, are just feel stuck. Kind of like Maryland. Same thing with Maryland. You got PG County, which is basically sucking up all all of the votes in maybe Baltimore County, but the rest of Maryland is pretty much all red, and it's really, really unfair to those people. So, but again, every single vote counts, especially when it comes to popular vote. See here, basically what we've got over the past 4 years is most segments of the right have gotten closer together and get along more, and we've lost a few neocons. You nailed it. I can't agree with that anymore. I feel, this is sad to say, and this is a public forum, and I don't want to offend my family at all, but I'm gonna say it anyway, that this is a horrible thing to say, and I want to preface this in a way that's not disrespectful to my family, because I love them to death, and my friends who are Democrats. I feel closer to people I've never met in my life who are MAGA supporters than I do with my own family and friends in a closer way. And I think some of that has to do with, to your point here, is that we're brought close together because this last 4 years has been a little rough. In fact, the last 5 years has been a little rough because the whole campaign of 2015-16 was rough. And you go back, think about that, the last 7 years, what we've been through. If you've been to Trump from day one, like I have, not day one, the first time he spoke, I was with him. It's been a rough ride, and we haven't defended the president, research stuff for the president, and we've all come together as a family to support one another, look out for one another, defend one another. Hey, Kyle, can you come on my page because I'm getting attacked over here? Sure, I'm right over there. I'm over there. Bam. So yeah. So it's a real kind of thing too, because in some ways it's deeper than a sports team. Yeah, if your team wins the Super Bowl, that's good, but it doesn't put money in your pocket. It doesn't protect your family. It doesn't help your country. But voting for Trump does, right? Voting for Trump puts money in my pocket. It helps my family with financially secure, with security for the country as a future. And so the stakes are very, very high. This isn't a game. This isn't hockey. This isn't baseball. And I think it's one of the reasons why sports has been a second fiddle now, because people are realizing that this politics thing is way more important now. Once we win and once we get back to normal, then yeah, go Redskins, go Caps, go Wizards. As long as they cover that BLM crap, I'm not down with that, at all. But aside from that, I'm with you, man. I'm with you 100%. So in case you notice that Fox News has become left wing, yes, they have. I agree, Jeremiah, the media is turning into China's news witch, just propaganda, spewing blatant lies and constantly hiding all corruption. Absolutely true. The left-wing media just smear you. The left-wing media asks you for an interview, don't give it to them. Exactly. You can't trust them. Let's see here. Thanks for keeping me entertained on my drive home. You're welcome, Dylan. I don't know if that's positive or not, but either way, if you're a Biden supporter and you're respectful, you're welcome here. I don't care. I completely support splitting Texas into 5 states to pack this. One person said, yeah, because AOC said, hey, let's pack the court after Barrett got confirmed. Yeah, so Trump should go ahead and just add 6 to the court after he wins. I mean, it's ridiculous. Thanks for all the hard work. Always excited to see your vids. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. San Francisco has a lot fewer people nowadays. That's true. It's so sad that it costs less to rent a U-Haul to move out of California than it is the cost to move out. There's a guy on YouTube named Nerdrotic. He's a comic book guy, and he was moderate, I think, early on. I followed him for comic book stuff, for movie stuff, for Star Wars stuff, for all that stuff. But then he lived in San Francisco, and he did a video where he moved out and how it was hard for him to get a U-Haul, because he basically went from a nonpartisan, left-leaning, hippie type comic book channel that covers movies to a hard right, conservative, I'm never going back to California ever again channel before your very eyes. And I'm gonna do a video on that when I get a chance. But he's got a really cool channel. His perspective is different. We're seeing people just changing their outlook on everything because they see that it's coming back and hitting them where it hurts the most. I said before that we could ignore all this stuff. We could ignore, maybe there's a baker in this country here or the state here that isn't getting something because of his stance on religion, or a person over here is maybe being discriminated against because of his stance here. And people say, well, that's them, that's them. But I said eventually they're going to hit something that you care about, like toilet paper. That hit everybody, right? That was the first sign of socialism I've ever experienced in my life, other than being in a socialist country like I was for some mission trips I was in, in the past. But outside of being outside the country, that's the first experience I've ever had in this country of feeling like I was in a third world country, where we couldn't get things we needed, and I didn't like that at all. It was scary. And so that is what people in San Francisco are feeling, the ones who are reasonable, and they don't take it anymore. And they can't leave because, like you said, it's too expensive, or they can't find a U-Haul to even get out of the city. So yes, he did, the IRS. So I have a video, the top 10 scandals that should have impeached Obama. One of those was the IRS scandal. I think like number 3 on the list. It was incredible. They totally got away with that. Went after the Associated Press. I can just go on. Thanks again, Team Jesus. Appreciate it so much for that. Yeah, those slides are not updated. I will put a new version out after this, and let you have that. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate that. Also, I'm saying, Kyle, is that judicial review was never the purpose of the Supreme Court. Marbury versus Madison was terrible. I will look that up. I'm writing that down. I'm not familiar with that. I'll look that up. Yeah. So according to since Amy Coney Barrett was on the confirmed day before yesterday, this is the first time since the Warren Court we've actually had a conservative majority on the Supreme Court. Because right after the Warren Court in the 50s and 60s, you essentially had activist judges happen. That's when you saw prayer in schools go down. You saw abortion happen. You saw all these unconstitutional social issues come in and be made law outside of the will of the people. And so for the first time in 60 years, we have that now. And the Republicans have done a really good job in the House, in the Senate to do that. And the Democrats are just losing their minds, and they don't have any idea of how to fix that other than packing the court. So Pedro saying here that, let's go on, sorry. Yeah, exactly. Terrible. Horrible. All right. So if the left gives us an excuse to destroy the Supreme Court. Okay. All right. So that's all the comments. I want to say shout out to Team Jesus. Thank you so much for the money you contributed on top of everything else you give on a monthly basis to us. Thank you so much for Rubies as well. Team Jesus as well again. Ray Wood, thank you so much for that support there. Rubies again, $2 there. Thank you so much for that as well. Another $5 there as well. I am just very, very humbled for the generosity. And when this is all said and done, once we win this thing, I'm going to do I want to empower people. And so I'm saying this for the first time ever. One of the plans I want to do for this channel is I want to create separate conservative takes. So if you are a person who wants to get involved in the space of YouTubing or whatever, whether it be BitChute or whatever you want to do it, I'm looking to provide the training for you to do that, give you space on our servers to do that, to get you your feet wet and you can go off on your own. so that we can empower people to expand this and engage more into the culture. And you can have channels that doesn't have your face. You can have it so that you're just not showing your face and you're doing different types of formats. But the point being that there's a way you can do it on the cheap, where basically the whole setup is going to be pretty much just buying some software here and there, or some equipment, or using your cell phone to do it. So, and so that's what I'm looking to do. And once we get through all this, is to help expand this and help the next generation to become more of a force. Because if we don't get engaged in the culture, we're going to be overrun by more of this kind of stuff in the media. So hopefully, again, when Trump wins, we will be able to simply hold these mainstream companies accountable so that they don't are allowed to run amok on us. So let me check one more comment down here at the bottom here and see if there's anything else. Let's see here. So thoughts on making a cloning machine to make 15 Clarence Thomases and putting them on the Supreme Court. Hey, how cool was that to see Clarence Thomas swear Amy Coney Barrett in? How cool was that? You know, it almost went full circle, because I'm old enough, unfortunately, to know when this was in '92, by the way. I got a funny story too, by the way, on this. In '92, that was the whole Clarence Thomas thing. I was living in DC, working for the government. And, you know, he was under attack by Joe Biden, you know, and that was when Clarence Thomas basically said that this is a high tech lynching, where he was being falsely accused of sexual harassment. That was when sexual harassment became, that's when that became a cultural phenomenon. You saw stuff like Fatal Attraction, movies like that come out, workplace inappropriate behavior. And they tried to discredit him and make him just ruin his career, ruin his life. And so now it's full circle now. We have, for the first time in 60 years, a conservative court where Biden is actually the challenger to the president on Hillary Clinton's birthday. It was just so appropriate that happened. So, and to see him do that was pretty cool to see that. And the funny story is this: I was at a Redskins game. The Redskins that year, they won the Super Bowl that year. They beat the Buffalo Bills that year, but they started off really, really hot. They had 3 home games that were shutouts, right? And my parents had season tickets, and I was there at the Browns game. They were playing the Browns at RFK Stadium. And I'll never forget this. They saw a sign there which said, "Even Clarence Thomas can't score in DC." And I mean, at the time I was a Democrat, I thought it was funny. But now looking back on it, that was, of course, inappropriate and horrible, because he was an innocent man. And he's a great American, probably one of our greatest Supreme Court justices ever in history, with a chance of being the greatest, in my opinion. So anyway, Clarence Thomas, what a great American he is. All right, guys. So I'm going to cut this thing short. We've been on this call for about, hour and a half. Wow. Okay, cool. All right, guys. So let me say this first. Thank you so much for hanging with me. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for subscribing and liking to the channel. This is more therapeutic than anything else, based on the stuff I see on a daily basis. But simply me just trying to do my part, my small part in my small corner of the world, for our president to get him reelected, because ultimately we're all going to benefit. And right now, this to me is really the end game for me. This election has to be won. It has to be. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And we've seen what the left are capable of, and we just can't let it happen. At the very minimum, we hold on to the Senate. That would be probably the most important thing to hold. They can mess around the House all they want. The House, whatever. The House, there's no power in the House. They can do resolutions, and they can do votes, and they can do committees and investigations, all kind of stuff. But the real power is in the Senate. If we keep the Senate, worst case, we can live with that and maybe have just have gridlock for 4 years. But again, I'm not entertaining that possibility, because right now, what I'm seeing on the ground and what I'm seeing in the internal polling, demographics wise, from other polling on issues based on law and order, on security, on the economy, on race relations, even with Black support being as high as 46% this past week, with Latinos just being overly excited in spaces like Florida and California and Arizona and New Mexico, and just seeing the groundswell of support for the president. It's just, to me, the optics are one thing, but the data to me speaks even louder. So with that, guys, I am going to, okay, let me see here. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Kyle, so much. Man, God bless you. God bless you too. And I don't know if you guys are praying people or not. I am being prayer for this country, because ultimately that's what's going to win it for us, is prayer. And I think right now, that is what the Democrats just can't compete with. They can't compete against God. They can't compete against God. So, all right. Well, God bless everybody. And again, if you're like this channel, please click like, subscribe, and that join button if you'd like to help us along the way in our future plans and endeavors. And share with your friends. And absolutely, please vote on Tuesday next week. If there's a big news cycle again tomorrow, I probably won't do one. I'll probably do one Thursday. We'll see what happens. As far as live streaming on Tuesday, I'm trying to work something out on that. I want to do a live stream, but then I don't want to do a live stream. I kind of want to be free to do other things, but something will happen that day. But we'll play that closer as that date gets closer. All right. So thank you so much for coming out again. And as always, guys, be blessed and stay awesome. And I'll see you guys next time.